Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Lee County Board of Commissioners September 16th meeting. Got a good crowd tonight. Appreciate everybody coming out. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'll call on Commissioner Dr. Andre Connect if he will do the invocation and pledge.
Thank you. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for all the wonderful gifts that you constantly give us. May we continue to be in your blessings. May we continue to do work in your name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Connect.
Thank you.
At this time, are there any additional items to the agenda?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to add the first reading to the new business of the concealed handgun permit carry ordinance as item C.
Under new business?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, anything else?
Yes, Madam Chair, we need to add an item to the consent agenda that came from the sheriff to purchase a fingerprint system for the jail. It's an item that was budgeted. And also, we need to add Peggy Taphorn, who's here to talk to the board about the Temple Theater. And we thought maybe we could add that before the public hearing under presentations.
Okay, thank you. Any other items? Okay, is there a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Any discussion?
No, just agenda.
Oh, just
The
a,
agenda.
no,
As amended.
yes.
Okay, the agenda is amended. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, the approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, at this time, I'd like to call on, I think, Ms. Everett from Duke Energy with some good news, which we could use. Absolutely. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good evening, all. Thank you, Chairwoman Dalrymple, Commissioners, and County Manager for this opportunity. Each year, the Duke Energy Foundation focuses its giving on K through 12 education, workforce development, and nature. Each year, the foundation also adds an additional new focus area based on the current needs of the state. This year, that focus area was storm resiliency in response to the devastating hurricanes we experienced in recent years. Duke Energy just awarded, I'm very proud to say, $1.1 million in storm resiliency grants throughout North Carolina to increase response capabilities, preparation, and planning for future weather events. There were numerous applications submitted, and unfortunately, we cannot award them all. However, I'm delighted to say that both of the applications for Lee County were awarded. I'm pleased to say that the City of Sanford received a $10,000 award for water rescue for the fire department. But this evening, I'm here to highlight the grant awarded to Lee County, which was submitted by Matt Britt. The county was awarded $30,000 for emergency services, water rescue, and safety. The funds will equip emergency responders with needed personal protective equipment and watercraft. I personally want to thank Matt in his absence, and also Shane Seagroves and all of the first responders for what they do every day for the citizens in this county. You are sometimes taken for granted, I know, but tonight we want to honor you. So on behalf of Duke Energy, it's my pleasure to say thank you. And so at this time, if I could have Shane come up, I'd love to do a ceremonial check presentation, and the actual check will arrive at the end of the month. So I want to congratulate your team for submitting this wonderful grant and for the opportunity to assist in this way. So I want to applaud them if you all would join me.
I'm sorry, I'm taking a panorama.
Oh, no.
I was expecting.
Thank you, Indira.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Shane. Okay.
That's a good start to the meeting.
It is, very much. At this time, I'd like to call on Ms. Peggy Caplan from the Temple. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you. I'm actually going to piggyback on Indira's gratitude and express the gratitude of the Temple staff and board and patrons. As we start our 35th season, we just want to thank you all for your continued support. In the 2019-2020 season, we'll continue our mission to entertain, educate, and enlighten the audiences of Central North Carolina. As you know, Temple Theater is an employer, producer, consumer, and key promoter of Lee County. We bring in almost 41,000 people annually from 63 counties, and our statewide reputation continues to grow. These are people who spend money in Lee County. 59% of our patrons last season came from outside Lee County, validating the claim that Temple is a leading regional theater and Lee County's #1 tourist attraction. These visitors have a tremendous economic impact on area restaurants and retailers. The local economy would be adversely affected without Temple Theater in historic downtown Sanford. The economic impact of Temple Theater on the local economy is $4.2 million annually. For every $1 spent at the Temple Theater, an additional $9 goes into the local economy. Temple provides numerous educational programs and opportunities for Lee County's children. The Temple's outreach philosophy is to make its programs and its shows as affordable to the public as possible. And with your help, that is possible. It is rewarding to see many young people who have gone through the Temple training programs working in theater and using skills learned at Temple in their chosen careers outside of the entertainment field. The 2014 implementation of the North Carolina sales tax on admission charges is a constant source of income for Lee County. During the 2017-18 season, Lee County collected over $11,000. During 18-19 season, $13,000 went to Lee County, and we're projecting $15,000 for our current season, which just started this past weekend with Oliver. Using the Temple's success as a model, Temple will become a sister theater in Chatham County in the new Chatham Park development with a projected opening in 2023. And these brochures that I've given you all to look at will be used there as a model and as a fundraising tool to see what we have done in Lee County and what we can do in Chatham County as well. Last season, we had programming 342 days. We offer a wide range of programming through our special events as well as our main stage and youth productions. I would just like to thank you again for your continued support, and we look forward to seeing you all at the Temple. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Peggy. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I would like to call on Ms. Amy McNeil as we go into our public hearing. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners, Planning Board members, and staff. Planning staff has received a rezoning application from Stephen Chase Johnson requesting to rezone the front 402 acres from a 6.71 acre tract of land that he's recently purchased off of Broadway Road. Mr. Johnson's goal is to develop this area as an auto and truck repair shop, and he would like to own and operate while retaining the rear of the property as a residential property that he may someday build a house on. Therefore, he has submitted a rezoning request for your consideration, which is on pages 54 through 77 of your agenda. The site is located in eastern Lee County between Cox Mill Road and Avens Ferry Road. There's a mix of residential and commercial land uses and zoning along Broadway Road in this area. The subject property is currently zoned residential agricultural, which is established to provide areas for low-density single-family uses, low-density agricultural operations, as well as agribusiness. Examples of uses permitted by right in RA include single-family homes, churches, schools, animal and crop production, and there's a list of permitted uses for the RA zoning district included within your agenda. The proposed zoning of the front 4 acres is highway commercial, and this is established to accommodate uses that depend on a large flow of traffic and convenient access, such as retailing of durable goods, the provision of commercial services to industrial areas, and the provision of services to tourists. Examples of uses permitted by right within the highway and commercial zoning district include farm, landscape, and garden supply sales, motor vehicle repair and service, motor vehicle towing with incidental storage, hardware home centers. There is also a list of permitted uses in your zoning, included in your agenda. This is the zoning map, which shows the variety of zoning in the area. You can see there's residential agricultural in the area, but along Broadway Road, there is light industrial and highway commercial already at this location. The subject property appears to have access to public water, and it would have to be served by a private septic system when and if it is developed. There's approximately 400 feet of road frontage on Broadway Road, which is an NCDOT maintained public street, and if rezoned, all of the uses permitted in the highway commercial zoning district would be allowed to be developed at this location. Staff recommends that the board support this request. In making this recommendation, staff finds that the rezoning proposal from residential agricultural to highway commercial for the front 4 acres, which is approximately 390 feet deep, appears to be in keeping with the existing commercial development in the area along a busy roadway, while retaining the residential agricultural at the rear of the property, adjoining existing RA zoning and residential uses, appears to comply with the adopted long-range plan. Also, this request appears to be reasonable and in the public interest, since it's a compromise that takes into consideration the location of the subject property along a busy roadway that will be widened in the future per an ongoing NCDOT project and the long-range land use plan. I will now pause to allow Chairman Dalrymple to open the public hearing, and I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. McNeil?
I'm trying to get a clear understanding. Is the little curlicue block there? Trying to figure out exactly where we're talking about.
Yes, sir. Within the clouded area is the front approximately 4 acres.
Where's the next closest piece of commercial property?
Sloan Racing.
The race engine shop?
Sloan's.
We have highway commercial here, light industrial here, and then highway commercial
Okay.
here, and Sloan's is here. We have neighborhood commercial up on, it's like an abandoned old store at the intersection.
Yeah,
And then there's
okay.
highway commercial up here with an auto repair shop.
I know where I am now. Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, at this time, I will open the public hearing on the rezoning request for Broadway Road. Anyone like to speak in favor of this project? Anyone?
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm A.K. Griffin. I own the property next to it.
Okay,
We
good.
share
Just come on up, okay? Hi.
approximately a
Sir, if you can-
900-foot property
Sir,
line.
if you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
A.K. Griffin. I live at 250 Avents Ferry Road. I own a Christmas tree farm next to this property at 1823 Broadway Road.
Thank you.
Since Chase has been at his present location on Avents Ferry Road, he has been an excellent neighbor. And I feel like that will continue if he moves up here to this location. And to me, good neighbors are important anywhere you are. So I have no problem whatsoever with him moving his business there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Griffin. Okay,
I'd just like to introduce myself.
sure.
I'm Stephen Johnson,
Hey,
but my middle name's Chase.
Hey, Chase.
So, and if anybody's got any questions what my future plans are, I'll be happy to answer anything.
Any questions?
Just where's your current business at?
It's just right around the
Around
corner.
the corner.
Yes, sir,
Okay.
where it says the-
That's Cotton's old business?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone to speak against the proposed change? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you very much. And at this time, we'll allow our wonderful members of our planning board to move to the next room. Thank you again for all your hard work. Okay, at this time, we'll do public comments, and we have one, Mr. Andy Stevens. Welcome, if you could just give your address for the record.
Well,
sir.
welcome. I have a prepared statement. It's one single page. It will take a little bit of a tad over 3 minutes, however, even though I do speak fast. My name is Andy Stevens. Good evening. Let me start from the beginning. Good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair. My name is Andy Stevens, and I'm a North Carolina resident from Stokes County. I represent local members of both Gun Owners of America, where I am the North Carolina State Director, and Grassroots North Carolina, where I am the Director of Legislative Affairs. Some of you may remember me because, yes, I was here 5 years ago with the same purpose that brings me here tonight, to see to it that you repeal the restrictions on lawful concealed carry in Lee County government facilities. In October and November of 2014, the board heard more than 14 passionate expressions for repeal. Afterward, a board majority repealed the restrictions and the signs came down. However, in December 2014, a new board was sworn in, and before that new board even took their seats, they, without discussion or input from citizens, reinstituted the irrational restrictions on lawful citizen carry. Yes, I was there that morning as well. Let me now go over some facts this board should consider tonight in making its next decision. Number one, numerous counties and municipalities since December 2014 have continued to trust their citizens and repealed enforced restrictions. Lee County, in fact, is the only county in North Carolina to have moved backwards in this process over the last 25 years. Not one county or municipality has added restrictions to lawful citizen behavior except for Lee County. It's well past time for Lee County to correct this wrong. Number two, since December of 2014, nearly 400,000 additional concealed carry permits have been issued by county sheriffs. Today, nearly 1 in 8 eligible adult North Carolinians, nearly 700,000 in total, possess a valid concealed carry permit. Others possess valid permits issued by other states, as North Carolina recognizes as valid all such issued permits. Sheriffs in many counties continue to be inundated with permit applications to approve. Number 3, the list of places these permit holders can legally carry have been expanded over time to include virtually all public parks, establishments that serve alcohol, and transiting school grounds and school parking lots. While North Carolina has not been the first to provide such expansions of freedom, nevertheless, the dire predictions of naysayers who promised the blood-filled streets of the wild, wild west simply never materialized. Concealed carry permit holders have proven themselves to be safe, sane, and sober. In fact, as a group, we are without doubt a very select and very lawful segment of the population at large. We are good people you should welcome and not scorn or turn away. Today, at the national level, one party has offered to shred our Constitution. National leaders of this party would repeal the Second Amendment. Worse, they now advocate for the outright confiscation of lawfully possessed firearms. Some members of this board are in fact associated with this party. However, I submit not all of you, or members of that party in general, are as fanatical as the national voices screaming for attention. Will you go on record tonight supporting the taking of arms, the limiting of one's natural right of self-defense, and the repeal of the Second Amendment? Will you remain and become the only county in North Carolina to have moved backwards not just once, but twice? An election was just held this week that you should take careful note of. Historical voting patterns were broken and reversed because of the positions of the radical left. Cumberland County, not far away and with similar demographics, saw a significant swing towards a conservative candidate.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it.
I have a copy for everybody.
That'd be great. Thank you. Okay, under old business, the zoning map amendment request for Eakes Road, Mr. Downey. And that'll be on page 78 of your agenda.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the
evening.
board. As Madam Chair indicated, this is a recommendation from the Planning Board. It is regarding a rezoning request for 10.4 acres off of Eakes Road. Beginning on page 79 of your agenda packet, there is the recommendation and details of that. I would simply summarize in saying that the Planning Board recommended unanimously in favor of the request from residential agricultural to residential restricted, based on two key factors. One, it was conforming to, in their opinion, it was conforming to the land use plan of the countryside designation place type, based on the fact that the RR is a 30,000 square foot kind of rural rezoning type residential district. The other is on the second paragraph there is that the request does appear reasonable and in the public interest based on proximity to other RR zoning, location of the site in along a publicly maintained roadway with access to public water, and the fact that RR would not allow manufactured mobile homes to be placed on the property, which may protect the neighbor's property values if they would like to sell their land. I'll pause there, Madam Chair, just to remind you and the board, you do have two votes as indicated in the staff report. The first is conformity with the plan, and the second is to approve or deny the request. There is an ordinance at the very back of that section for your consideration on page 84. And again, I'll pause if there's any additional questions for me.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, I move to approve option 1. Rezoning request appears to comply with Land Sandley designation.
Okay. Any discussion or questions on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. And is there an additional motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. And then I guess you're next.
Yes, ma'am.
For the UDO text amendment to update the City of Sanford's Public Works Director certification.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This, as you indicated, this is actually not a zoning change, but a text change to our Unified Development Ordinance. You may recall Ms. McNeil gave you this information as well at your last meeting at public hearing. This really would not affect Lee County. This is a change for the subdivision certificates when a developer wants to get their final plat recorded and they go to the courthouse and get the lots created. We have several certificates on there that different authorities have to sign. This particular certificate is only for those that have public water, sewer, or streets, and this would be municipal water, either City of Sanford or Town of Broadway. The concern under the previous was it was a little bit vague and that it just referred to utilities. This clarifies to make sure it's water, sewer, or streets, because the concern was if we're signing utilities, it could be something outside of what they actually have jurisdiction over. And I'll pause there if there's any additional questions.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve the UDO tax amendment revising the public works certificate on subdivisions.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
so much. Okay, item C will be Ms. Thriesbeck from the Blue Ridge Environmental Defense League for a presentation of information. Welcome, good evening.
Good evening, and I'm Therese Vick with Blue Ridge Environmental Defense League. I live in Raleigh, but I work all over North Carolina, sometimes in Virginia as well. And I wanted to thank you very, very much for giving me this opportunity to kind of update you and to bring you some concerns that we have and local folks have about the Colon Road, the old Colon Mine coal ash potential site. I did send all the commissioners the report electronically, but I also provided paper copies for you and others and staff. And hopefully, you know, I don't know if I can answer all your questions if you have any this evening, but if I can't, I know somebody who can. So, I don't know if you all have read any media reports about what may be going on at the coal ash landfill in Chatham County. On June the 21st of this year, DEQ directed the company, which is Chara, to submit a groundwater and surface water assessment work plan to the section which outlining how the reported constituents contamination in the relevant monitoring wells and surface water one, which is one location where they check surface water, will be delineated. In other words, what they were doing, what DEQ is doing, is asking the company to explain why there have been exceedances over background and also over state standards of heavy metals and other constituents. We had been watching this for a while. We review their groundwater monitoring analysis when they're posted on the public portal. And so we had some concerns about this for a while, so we had a consultant to take a look at the Chatham County site. And we were frankly stunned. We were very concerned because both of them were permitted so fast. Almost I have worked on waste issues off and on for almost 30 years. I've never seen a landfill permitted that fast. So we decided, after seeing the problems that the geologists and the hydrogeologists found with the Chatham County site, we decided to ask them to take a look at the Lee County site. And his report, which he submitted to us last year, is before you. Another thing to update you on is that we are still in court. Blue Ridge Environmental Defense League, Environmental League, and the Chatham County Group are still in court on this matter. We had another hearing on it last month, and unless there's an email has come since I walked up here, we haven't had a decision yet. So that issue is still live. Challenging DEQ's issuance of these permits. The other thing is in April 1st, and you may have seen reporting on this as well, the Department of Environmental Quality issued an excavation order to Duke Energy to dig up and do something. They kind of gave them some options with coal ash at every single one of their facilities in North Carolina. My understanding is that matter will not be heard. Of course, Duke Energy challenged DEQ's decision, and it will be heard, I understand, sometime in June of next year. So that's out there, all that coal ash that might be looking for a home to go to. That's kind of just kind of hanging out there right now. So another thing to know also, and you may have seen the report in the rant, that the company Chara is having a little financial difficulty right now. We have seen several media reports, and I've reviewed their 10Q. We have also tried, and our attorneys have tried, to get information from the company as to what their intentions are for the Lee County site. And we've tried to ask them to please reconsider and not use it for coal ash. And we don't get any definitive answer. This site, the current permit that they have is valid until June 2025. And there is a review that comes up next year, which is required by state law. So they'll take a look at it and so on. So they are fully permitted. They have a permit to construct and a permit to operate until 2025. And that's what I meant when I said that if they wanted to, I'm sure they'd have to do a little more work for the state, but if they wanted to, they could really start construction that facility tomorrow if they wanted to, if they were in that position. Unless things change, there's nothing at the state level to hold them back unless we get a positive ruling on our court case. The consultant's report looked at the site and, you know, in his opinion, the largest concern was the lack of a full and complete geologic assessment of the site prior to permitting. There was little effort put into identifying faults, other fractures, and diabase intrusions, also known as diabase dikes, that could act as conduits to rapidly spread contaminants in the groundwater if or when a leak occurs. The monitoring well network is inadequate and only monitors the shallow part of the aquifer, and the way that groundwater moves in fractured zones, it can be very, very difficult, maybe even impossible, to characterize a site and to be able to predict where and how fast groundwater moves and how fast contamination could move. And this is a well known. The site also lies within the recharge area of a local aquifer there. And vertical downward flow, in other words, through these fractures and diabase dikes, is likely. So if they just monitor the surface, the shallow part, they can completely miss any potential contamination. They would need to do shallow and deep aquifer monitoring wells, and they would need to nest them and some other things in order to even hope to pick up contamination, unless it's widespread. Otherwise, a release can occur, move downward into fractures, and then move laterally off the property in deep groundwater flow zones without being detected by the monitoring well network. And I think we can see the results of a rush to permit both of these sites with what is currently occurring at Brookhaven, which could be leaking. It is a lined facility, less than 4 years old, and the state is concerned enough about it that they are asking the company to prepare a groundwater assessment work plan, which they have done, and take a look at why these constituents are showing up at the levels that they are in the groundwater monitoring wells. And I thank you again for this time, but I'm not trying to scare anybody, but coal ash is still very much on the mind of Chara. And if you all know any different, I would love to know. So that folks could rest easy a little bit, but our attorneys and there have been some legal filings that indicate that part of what they're waiting for was this court case to get finished. So are there any questions? And like I said, I'm not sure if I can answer them, but I can get them to the person who can.
What type of construction are you talking about?
Build the landfill.
The coal ash landfill?
That's right.
Would you happen to know exactly what Chara's permitted uses are? Is there more than one, more than coal ash?
But not currently at this time. No, it's structural fill, beneficial reuse, and you see my air quotes, because EPA does not consider this kind of facility a beneficial reuse. But that's all they're permitted for right now. But that's an excellent question, because another thing they can do is go back to the state and, you know, modify that permit, ask to change it to something else. Doesn't mean they'll get it,
Right.
but that is certainly a possibility.
Well, that's always been my concern. If you got approval for the coal ash, what else could you get approved for, perhaps without us even knowing what's going on?
Right, and we're trying to keep a really close eye on both sites, but, you know, they don't pick up the phone and call me every time something changes at DEQ, as much as I would like them to, but they do not do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you, that was a good question. Questions? Well, after you have, I'm sorry.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Ms. Beck. Obviously, I need to read the report,
Right.
so I apologize if I'm asking something that's in here. So with the problems that potentially could be at Brickhaven, what's the next steps there?
If it is determined that facility is contaminating the groundwater, then they'll have to take corrective action. What that might be, what that might look like, how much it might cost, it's hard to know, but that would be the next step.
But Chara would be the one responsible.
Char would be the one responsible for that.
Okay.
Well, the other concern I would have is knowing what type of liner they already have in place if you have a leak.
Well, it's state of the art, you know.
I mean, the
Yeah, I know
liner-
state of the art.
Yeah, I mean, the liner that
State-of-the-art
they,
truck.
the liner that they put in at Brickhaven was the same one that they shopped around to us initially that was gonna go in.
Right.
Moncton,
That's what's
Poland.
permitted for the colon site.
Right.
It's almost
Same.
identical. So.
But if
4
there's-
years.
If there's leakage in 4
I
years,
know.
And I'm very careful. I'm not saying that there is,
Sure.
but even DEQ is concerned enough about it to ask them to go back and take a look at what's going on.
The leachates are being taken to the water treatment plant, correct?
I believe the city of Sanford and Harnett County.
And what is the condition of the water after it's treated?
I have not looked at any reports lately, but that's on my to-do list. But you can check with your public works folks and ask them to send you some monitoring reports. They've been very good when I've asked for them.
Any more questions? Okay,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much for
You're welcome.
providing us this information and for your diligence.
Thank you. Thank you for
And-
having me.
And I'm sorry it took so long.
It's okay. I had things too. If you will, after reading the report, you all have questions, you have my email, so feel free to reach out and I will get them to Jay Holly, who's the consultant who did this work for us.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you too, ladies, for being here. Appreciate it. Okay, at this time, the fiscal year 2021 NCDOT Community Transportation Program Grant Application. Ms. Davidson, welcome. Good evening.
Good evening. I bring back to you this evening, after the public hearing a few weeks ago, the application to be approved for FY 2021 and the administrative funding that has been proposed by NCDOT to Lee County is $221,254. Of this, Lee County will be responsible for 15% match at $33,188. These funds cover 85% of the salary for the County of Lee Transit System Coordinator and a portion of administrative salaries of 4 other staff. It also includes 85% benefits, travel, general office supplies, space rental, technology supplies, indirect costs for the administration of the system. This also includes 85% reimbursement for the insurance for 18 vehicles. In our 2021 Consolidated Capital Call for Projects application, we are not requesting any vehicles to be replaced. At the end of this fiscal year, we should have a relatively new fleet and hopefully less maintenance cost. Keep our fingers crossed. But we are proposing 20 tablets for our van drivers to utilize a new software upgrade with our current TripMaker software package that is our technical support comes from NC State University. The desktop computers are eligible for replacement on all 4 of the administrative staff in the Colts office, upgraded dispatch radio equipment, and the replacement of our current camera systems for all 18 vehicles. Our camera system is now obsolete. We cannot buy cameras to replace those, which is not good. And so I'm trying to buy one now from Brunswick County for another vehicle that they're fixing to get rid of. So if you have any questions, I'll entertain those questions.
Move to approve the grant application request.
Any discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much, Debbie. Okay, the amendment to the professional services agreement with Mosley Architects for the courthouse renovations, Dr. Crumpton.
Yes, ma'am. This amendment covers the construction and engineering drawings for the fireplace building and historic courthouse. This is phase one of the renovations. Cannot move on to phase two, which is the current courthouse building, without moving the register of deeds and the district attorney into their new offices. This is the amendment. It also covers the bidding, construction administration of this, so it's not unexpected. In the amendment, the architect has estimated the cost of construction for this project. The commissioner will notice that it was high, and if you know what's going on in the construction market right now, the architects are using quite a fudge factor, I would call it, to estimate, because they have gotten burned quite a bit recently when they went out to bid, and the bids came in over what was allocated. So in this particular case, we do have enough money from the bond proceeds to cover the estimates, plus cover the architectural fees. So I'm recommending that we move forward so that we can proceed and get this project moving. Be happy to answer any questions.
Move to approve the amendment.
Okay, any questions? Do we have a turnaround time on this? Maybe.
When they are already involved in the construction drawings, so we hope to have it bid by January 1st, and construction to start early spring.
Okay.
Kind of delayed it just a little bit because of the issues with that came up with security. The courthouse building, which we would need to address in the next budget. I wanted to make sure the building was not, the historic courthouse was not finished until the next budget. We need to address the security issues that the sheriff wants to address there.
Okay. So any more discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, Dr. Franklin. Okay, new business, a request to issue a request for proposal to do a market salary study for Lee County government. Ms. McGee, good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. Hope y'all are doing well this evening. I'm here to request that you give me permission to do a proposal for a pay study. And it would be a market study. It would be where we look at the market, what the market is paying. We did a pay study in 2012 and the board adopted the classification system, but we did not make any change to employees' pay. And then August of 2015, we made some adjustments due to a mini market study that you approved by Springsped again in 2014. And since then, we've surveyed 20% of our jobs each year internally, and we've made changes based on how the budget ran and everything. This year, we did not do the pay study because we had some budget constraints because of the revaluation and seeking to lower the tax rate. We didn't make any changes to pay. And so for several years, our salaries have been ahead of surrounding counties. We've been doing really well. We've been keeping up. And we had 3 surrounding counties that conducted pay studies in the last year. And so that put us behind now. And looking at it, I got copies of all their classification plans. Mr. Crumpton and I looked at them, and we are behind in our classification and pay plan. We're having a hard time. We're losing employees to other counties. And right now in DSS, we've lost 7 social workers to other counties. Wake County, Moore County, Chatham County. So it's really been tough the last few weeks. Right now in DSS, we have 10 openings that we haven't filled yet, that we have open. Also in the health department, we had a complete turnover other than 2 employees in nursing. They went to Chatham County and Moore County. So basically, it's not been good. In the sheriff's office, we've lost deputies to other counties. And so the market is good. People are hiring. Even in the private sector, people are leaving to go to the private sector. So I think it's necessary now that we do a market study to see where we are based on the market. I did a tentative study today. I looked at 41 positions on the UNC government website, compared their average pay to our average pay, and we had 8 positions that we paid more than the others. There was 41. We only had 8 out of 41 that we were better than the other surrounding counties. I just used the surrounding counties. I didn't use the large counties like Wake, Cumberland, or any of those. But I would like permission to do a request for proposal for pay study.
Madam Chair, our goal is to, in the timing of this, is to have it ready for the board retreat so we can discuss, options at that board retreat. We're in a tough situation right now. I tell our staff that we probably, it's not often that we're going to be able to be the leader. We're not going to be the leader in pay in every position, but we need to be competitive. And what was interesting about today's survey is we were way off in some positions. So we need to address those items, but I felt like, we needed to get a third-party opinion to come in here and take a look at it. We also didn't need to do a full pay classification study because we felt like our, the classifications we have of our existing positions are good. I think they're doing what they need to do to make sure the employees know what their responsibilities are, so we didn't want to change that. We just wanted a third party to come in and do the study and be able to give that data to the board and then discuss it at the board retreat in January.
Any questions for Ms. McGee or Dr. Franklin?
No questions, Madam Chair, but I can relate to the same thing as the Sand Hill Center's enduring the same problem, and our business is doing the same. Competitive prices or competitive wages out there are driving people or drawing people away from us.
There are a few downsides to close to full employment. Is everybody's clamoring for the experienced, good workers, and that's who pays the most a lot of times.
I've been here 13 years and I haven't seen it like this in 13 years. Even when we went through the recession part, it was easy because we had so many applicants for one position. But now where we used to get 30 applicants, we might get 4.
The sheriff is talking about advertising positions, and he's been here 12 years. He's never had to advertise. He's always been able to use word of mouth and go out to the community college and get people to come to work. But now he's out, having to shake the bushes a little bit harder. So it is tough out there, and not all our issues are probably pay related, but we need to make sure that we're competitive and then address other issues as well. But I was going to make one other point. We're probably a net importer of people. So if someone's more competitive, let's say Moore County, we've lost quite a few employees who lived in Moore County. So they've actively recruited those employees, and if they don't have to travel up here and get paid more money to stay down there, that makes it difficult for us. So we don't have a big draw within our county for the specialty positions that we need in this county, like social workers. So we have to be on our game, and we'll see.
Move to approve.
All right, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Ms. McGee. Okay, the discussion of modification to the Lee County Code of Ordinances to allow concealed carry. Mr. Dodson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what I'd like to see happen, I believe I speak for most all law-abiding citizens in our county, and that is to lift the restrictions that are currently in place on concealed carry. Most of you know I've got a law enforcement background, about 15 years, and I can certainly tell you that laws that are made are broken all the time. Of course, in law enforcement, we call it job security. But criminals don't obey laws no more than they're going to obey that sign out there. And I'm talking about the sign on the door prohibiting firearms beyond that point. We can't, I don't believe that we can ever legislate our way out of gun violence. I don't like it any better than anybody else does. It breaks my heart when I hear these tragedies that happen, and I'm afraid they're probably going to continue to happen. That's just the way the world is. But Chicago is proof that no gun laws that are made are going to legislate your way or going to pull you out of a gun violence situation. There are murders there every weekend. The sign on the door, to some people probably makes them feel good maybe, but I feel like this is a false, I know it's a false sense of security. Once again, I think anybody in here would have to say, will that keep a criminal coming beyond those doors? Absolutely not. I think to leave the signs up, honestly, is reckless. And I know when we had this discussion before, we kind of flirted with this some time ago. I remember a citizen out there said, well, that's what our fine law enforcement is for. But even that deputy will tell you, as I could, that the police, when I say the police, I mean anybody wearing a badge, can't be everywhere all the time. Usually when I responded to a crime, I was there to do one thing. Unfortunately, the perpetrator had already done the deed, and I was there to do what? I was there to take the report. I don't think there's anything that's politically correct about a law-abiding citizen being able to defend themselves. With that sign up out there, a law-abiding citizen or any citizen that comes in here, of course it's not a criminal, with the sign up, if a bad guy comes through this door planning on doing violence with a firearm or really anything, a knife, ball, bat, or whatever, a citizen has no chance. No chance. With the sign down and law-abiding citizens that are in here carrying concealed, of course the good thing about that, the perpetrator doesn't know who's carrying. But at least the citizen has some chance. And I really like the fact that even employees here in this building would also have the right, as long as they follow the policies and the guidelines, to carry concealed. As an employee, if I was an employee here, I would like that, knowing that I would have the ability to defend myself. So I'm just going to be brief about that, and it's to the point. I would say that why don't we trust our law-abiding citizens? These citizens that have a concealed carry have jumped through the hoops to get a concealed carry. They've been vetted. They've had mental health check, background check, and to not allow them to exercise their right to defend themselves in this building, for example, is basically saying we don't trust you. We have no problem with a criminal perhaps coming through here, but we don't trust you, so we're not going to let you come in. So I'm very proud to be a part of this board. And look, folks, we're human beings. We're not going to agree on everything all the time, but I would just submit to you to not to lift these restrictions is reckless, I believe. And I would just ask that we do the right thing, that we trust our law-abiding citizens with a concealed carry, and let's just do the right thing and lift these restrictions. Thank you.
You want to talk about the ordinance for the employees?
Well, I read through it. I think for instance, Ms. Campbell, this building would be included, obviously, because if the employees are allowed to carry concealed, then certainly law-abiding citizens be. And I've looked through this. At first look and first reading at it, looks pretty good to me. Unless there's some of you, somebody else that have seen something in here that maybe you would like to discuss, but just looking through this, I think I like what I see.
Madam Chair, could I move that we go through the first reading then?
Any discussion? Any questions? Okay, how about it?
You don't have to read it.
You don't have to?
No, ma'am, you don't have to read the entire ordinance. Because it is there, on the, agenda, but we have never actually had the practice of reading the entire ordinances when it's classified as first reading. First reading means that it has the opportunity for the public to read it. And since it's been on the agenda as first reading, if it doesn't pass unanimously, there has to be a second reading anyway. So we would be here a while if we had to read the whole thing.
That's my understanding as well, and I believe the typical practice has been that there be a vote this time to see whether or not the outcome would be unanimous, and then if it's not, to hold another vote at the next meeting.
We just need to make sure that, and you, Ms. Gamble and I had this conversation, just to make sure there's no confusion. We just need to put it on the website, push it out as much as we can so people understand we're not talking about buildings all over the county.
Correct.
Correct. Absolutely.
The federal buildings, the
Right.
law enforcement center,
Absolutely.
the service center. When you can read the general services building, you have to understand that there are correctional personnel
Correct.
there, and
Correct.
they're not allowed to have firearms near them. So, I mean, those things make sense.
So,
And we would need a second motion for the policy, the employee policy, which only needs, one vote, doesn't need two.
Madam Chair, I move to conduct the first reading of the county ordinance regarding concealed carry in public buildings.
okay. Any discussion or questions? All those in
If
favor?
if you're going to list this information on our website, then I think you also should include a map that shows exactly where these buildings are.
Good idea.
To
I'll work
identify.
with our communications director to do
Okay.
that.
People don't know buildings by name necessarily.
That's a good idea.
We can get Don to do a fancy map for us.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
Okay. Any more questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
No.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, let the record show that I vote in support of the employees of Lee County.
Madam Chair, I move that the concealed carry.
I'm not through.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. I'd also like to reiterate what Commissioner Reeves said. And also, not taking any personal liability for what might happen if this goes through.
Ditto.
Okay, I'm sorry, Commissioner Smith.
No, Madam Chair, I move to accept or move to approve the concealed carry employee policy as stated in the agenda. Page 135 and 136.
Can you summarize that, since we're,
Back over to
no, you're fine.
The real purpose of the policy is really to hold the employees to a high standard, making sure that they're aware of what we consider to be their responsibility is, if they allowed to conceal carry, and we put some things in place, like if they're on medication that they, would affect their judgment, that they would need to notify us of such. We also have in place that if they get put on probation, and obviously we're having some personnel issues, we do not want them to conceal carry, and we're for these folks we'll be doing background checks as well here, to make sure that their records don't change while they're employed here. So we will continue, on a 12-month rotation. Know that the list that I will keep of people who conceal carry will be confidential, because we don't really want that getting out. And that's pretty much the summary. But I feel it was important also to have a list in case we do have a lockdown or an issue. It'd be nice to be able to notify law enforcement that we do have people in certain buildings, employees that might be concealed carrying, so that we have some extra caution as they enter a building. So just some things just to put in place for a higher standard for the employees.
It is, and I kind of look at Ms. McGehee too with HR, but I mean, are there, is, just to talk to the board about interest in also including CIT training for our employees if they're going to conceal carry. We do that with the Sheriff's Department.
We plan on offering to the employees, those that have interest, we're probably going to try to put together concealed carry classes and also shoot, don't shoot classes kind of thing. Trying to go above and beyond, just to give them that opportunity. And more of, I've had people want to take the concealed carry class, not because they want to conceal carry, but because they want to know the laws. And I'm sure you get people that do that in your business, because they want to know what's going on. And I encourage them to do that, so that they'll feel more comfortable. Not everybody feels comfortable around weapons. And of course, it's concealed. Hopefully you won't know that they're there. But, there is some angst. And if we can provide training and get folks, more comfortable with it, that's what we're going to try to do.
Okay, but I mean, can we make that a requirement to have additional training other than a one-day class? And then also take the CIT training? I mean,
you could.
I'm just asking the board.
Now, let me just interject on here as far as the CIT training. Now, unless it's changed, I took that back in, 2010, somewhere around there when I worked at Pittsburgh. Mostly what we did in that training was learn how to deal with mentally ill people. I don't know if they've added any more to it or what, but that was a week-long class.
Yeah.
And I do think that making that a requirement, since it's week-long.
I mean, I understand it's fine. It's just the crux of that was to teach us as officers to learn how to deal with mentally ill people. And then to call crisis intervention to come and intervene for us.
It's probably outside the realm of a concealed carry holder to,
That's
because
what I'm
I've
saying.
gone through this course as well.
Yeah.
And our course is scheduled this month on the 23rd till the 27th at the Emergencies Training Center. I really don't see where it's advantageous to everyday employees.
That was my point.
I mean, you will see some people, I know that, and Heath's department would see people, but usually they're they're not under the influence of something like out on the street or things like that, which CIT works with, or someone who's off their medications and having an issue. I don't think it would be
So
I think one of the things in dealing with the employees is, they're not sworn law enforcement. We want to make sure they understand they're not sworn law enforcement, and that our preference is that they still dial 911 in cases where you're dealing with mentally ill. We do have, the county resource officer program at this point, and now that we have 2, I see them all the time in my building. And I was at the Buggy building today. I was not aware that we were going there, but we have employees there, and they have been going over there. So I was glad to see that as well. So I think, we still, and what we want to tell the employees is, yes, you can conceal carry, but it's not your job to do certain things. It's still call 911 first, and try to de-escalate situations. And that is another thing, the CIT training in the health department and DSS, they do have training on dealing with those folks, not CIT training, but
de-escalating individuals.
They try, yes, their first intuition is to de-escalate and try to calm situations. That's their training.
So employees going to be doing this on their time and their dime, or the county's?
Well, they'll be, we're going to offer it on Saturdays, so it's their time, and we're just helping support it.
Okay.
And if we have to, we'll use classroom space. My idea was we use Wicker Room, it's a big enough space, and it's a good training area. Of course, if they're getting their concealed carry, they'll have to go out into the field somewhere and do their shooting, so that we'll address that, and I plan on doing that with the sheriff, and we've already spoken.
And you'll maintain a list of those employees you authorize, and who else will have a list? Will have that same copy of that same list?
Ms. McGehee will have it as well, so we'll have 2 folks with it.
Will the sheriff have one?
He will not. He already has he already knows who they are. They're already registered with it. So he knows. Unless they don't live here in Lee County, he wouldn't have it, but.
Good point.
So I would, I'll go over that with him when I meet with him to talk to him about it.
Okay.
Okay, so, the proposal of all this goes against what 80% of our employees say. So how are we gonna handle those employees that have a real issue with this? I mean, is there any thing for them as far as anxiety and issues with their workplace?
we offer an employee assistance program. If they have real anxieties, they can call the employee assistance program and talk to them. They can also come to HR, and we will address it on an individual basis.
Well, the thing is, unbeknownst to them, there's already people bringing guns in here anyway. They don't even know it. And yes,
That
they're probably
doesn't make
people.
us
No, wait a
feel
minute.
better.
Wait a minute. Let me finish. There's people that aren't, like I say, going to obey the law. But as the county manager mentioned, you're never going to see these guns. Yes, they may. The employee may say, "Well, I wonder who's carrying today," but they're never going to see them. I certainly don't advocate open carry. You're right. This isn't the Wild Wild West, even though open carry has been legal in North Carolina since 1921. But I do think that suggests problems and causes anxiety to see a gun as opposed to it's out of sight, out of mind. Because as the county manager said, they're not going to know who's carrying, except for the individual that is carrying. And so, once again, I would say, what do you say to all the citizens out there, and there's a bunch of them, I've got a lot of emails on it, that you would take their right away to defend themselves? What do you say to them? When they come in this building, potentially becoming a victim, what do you say to them? Well, just take your chance. If you don't want to go to the tax office, mail your tax payment in or whatever, don't go in there. I don't know.
Okay, any more discussion or questions?
Just to emphasize, right now in Lee County, there's over 4,000 concealed carry holders. And that's not adding the people who come to the buggy factory to get permits and apply for expansion in this county. If they come in and they happen to be professionals who also have a concealed carry, I just don't see that allowing them that, see that sign, and I'm not interested. But the point is that over 4,000 citizens have gone that extra step, and the 80%, alleged 80% of the employees, I'm sorry, they're not the majority. They need to get their big person pants on and stop the snowflake thing.
Jesus Christ. Let me ask you, you said something about those, going back to your point, the 80%. You said employee counseling is what you were referring to?
I think that's, if you have employees that are upset with it,
I think that needs to be clear in our policy somewhere so that supervisors don't wind up taking the brunt of their frustration, taking it directly to them. You don't have to know who's carrying. Once people know that you can do it, everybody becomes suspect. And in that person's mind, it worries that individual probably every day. Well, that's true. You can sit there and smile like you're
Suspect.
losing your
I'm sorry, we're not criminals.
But you don't know who you are until you do something. That's what goes on. Some of these folks attack police departments. Obviously, they got problems. And confrontation is no big deal to them. I'm just saying to you that that individual who has that concern about who's carrying a weapon, I don't want to see them take it out on their supervisor or their coworker. Have a place for them to go. Someone to talk to and make it clear in our policy.
Do these people still have these same anxieties when they go to Food Line? And when they go to Walgreens?
Why don't you ask them?
No, I'm just saying, why does the county building have to be targeted, so to speak?
Because
Just because
we
we
did a
lift these
survey.
restrictions, is there going to be an incident here the next day?
Well, there are plenty of businesses in town that don't
Plenty.
allow concealed carry.
That don't allow?
Yes.
But there's far more that do. There's far more. You rarely see those signs anymore. I know that. 100%.
I don't understand how you can argue against a concern that a person might have. Just because you don't agree with the idea that they don't.
No, I agree that people have rights and they should.
Okay.
They have a basic right.
The only
Commissioner, to
point
defend
here
themselves.
is that they know exactly who to go to.
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
I
Well, you seem to be
have
arguing
no
against
problem
it.
with No, sir. Don't have a problem
All
with
right.
that.
Madam Chair, call the question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay. Monthly financial report.
Madam Clerk, like the record show, I support the 80% that were in opposition to concealed carry.
Same.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Before you, on page 137, you'll find the memo for the monthly financial report. I do apologize. I apparently got interrupted in writing this, and left some old information on there, so I do apologize for not catching that before
Been
now.
a busy week.
Starting on page 138, you'll see the monthly financial report for July. As you will see, our revenues are low in the month of July. That's because a lot of the revenues we get are reimbursements. And so a lot of the ones that we received in July needed to go back to the prior fiscal year since it was the end of our fiscal year. So don't be overly alarmed about those revenues. Last year we were about 3.7% of taxes collected. We're only at 3.8 this year. That's just timing. It will catch up. As far as expenditures go, of course, you know, the first few months of the fiscal year, we are always ahead of budget, our percentage on budget, because of contracts and service agreements and insurance bills that we pay up front. So those should balance out. Plus, we also have to include encumbrances now. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have on the revenue and expenditure report. If none, if you look on page 141, you'll see the sales tax report. We did finally receive the last distribution for the prior fiscal year, and you will see that we did finish a little bit under budget this year, but we still overall saw roughly a 5% growth in our sales tax revenues. So I'm pleased with that. We were just a few, about, I forget the exact total, but less than $100,000 under budget.
Okay. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, yes. I can't read these.
I'm so sorry.
Even with my special eyeglass. The percentage overall of sales tax revenue for the last 3 months, what's the increase?
We saw for the year was 5.5%.
Okay.
Roughly. And I can drop
Thank
a
you.
few years off.
why
That
you got
might
one of
help
these.
show that better.
Excuse me.
But if we want to see that many years, it's that small. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, manager's report.
Yes, ma'am. The city is finished with the Kiwanis Family Park project. Everything seems to be operational. My family has gone out there and test-driven everything, so it seems to be working pretty well. We're working with Withers and Ravenel to complete our projects, or at least our design of our projects. So we have another meeting this week on, I think it's OT Sloan and Temple, and we should be ready to go to bid here pretty soon. Want to remind everybody that October 10th, from 5:30 to 6:30, we have the airport terminal building open house and dedication. I know Jennifer or Ms. Gamble will be excited that I'm reminding you that on October 7th, we go live with our new peak agenda system. And for those of you who would like to use a laptop instead of a book, it will be ready for you. So I'm looking forward to that myself. I'm tired of carrying all this stuff in here with me. So looking forward to having everything on a laptop. Legislative bills of interest. House Bill 555 is the Medicaid program in transition to managed care bill. Because of the delay in the budget, the department is not ready to begin November 1st with the staged implementation, so we received a letter that the transition will be pushed back for all counties to February 1st, where that means everybody goes at it at one time, and we expect that to be monumental, don't we? And, it's going to be tough. So there are a couple other bills there. October 8th and 9th, the North Carolina Economic Development Partnership is bringing their Energizing Rural North Carolina program to the Dennis Wicker Civic Center. And so we are a sponsor along with SAGA, Sanford Tourism Development Authority, and the City of Sanford. So encourage everybody who would like to attend. There are some sessions that may appeal to everybody. So the reports are attached, and as you can see in the upcoming meetings and events, there's a lot going on coming up. So, and I feel like I missed something in there, but I think Saga's annual meeting's in there somewhere, and I forgot to put it on here, so I'll get that out to everybody. But that is it for my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners' comments. Commissioner Smith.
Just a reminder, tomorrow is Constitution Day, 232 years. And the Lee County Fair was fantastic. We had no weather interruption. I don't think we had maybe a few drips of rain on one time, but it was awesome. Thank you.
I saw that.
Lions
I
Club.
enjoyed my cookies on Tuesday night. It was outstanding. I was a judge in the
Thank you
cookie
for doing
pageant
that.
contest.
Thank you for doing that.
It was fun.
Commissioner Connect.
October 2nd.
Sheriff Deputy Odom is back home, so that's good news. That's all I have. I don't have anything.
I'm good.
Well, I did want to bring to the attention of the board on Sunday night, Purdue Pharmaceutical Company, which is the main maker of OxyContin, has declared bankruptcy. So I don't know what that is going to look like when moving forward with all of the different lawsuits. It seems it's their cowardly shield of dealing with the lawsuits they face. So.
And just a quick comment on that, I was sent some information from our attorney that I'll work on compiling to relate to the board in the near future.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all.
They declared bankruptcy before or after the $1 billion?
I guess after, I don't know. But
They couldn't agree, so they just went ahead and filed bankruptcy. So
What I read, they take $1 billion.
That was it.
I have a question I wanted to ask. Several months ago, I thought we had talked about buying a handicapped wheelchair swing for recreation. Did we ever get that?
we, it is planned for the Kiwanis Children's Park when the new playground equipment is bid and put in out there. And the equipment that the city put out there is all, not all, but most of it is handicap accessible.
Well, I think I saw it in the paper that the city was getting one too. Are we getting two, or do you know?
They're getting one and we're getting one.
Okay. That's good to know.
So they'll have theirs at the family park, we'll have ours at the children's park.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Well, since the question was called, I didn't get to finish. But how you, Commissioner Smith, spoke about our employees is shameful. There are employees that have legitimate reasons why they are uncomfortable around guns, and you don't work in their workplace every day. You don't know what they have to contend with. And there's a legitimate fear by those employees of inserting more guns into a problem. They're not saying that people don't bring guns in, but when you add more guns, sometimes more people get shot instead of the situation being de-escalated. And it's cruel to call them names. You are a sitting commissioner. And I appreciate the fact that you have a right. Yes, tomorrow's Constitution Day. We all have a right to believe what we believe. And you should respect their right to believe what they believe without calling them names. Please think about that. I know, yes, we all have differences. We all have differences. But just because we don't think like you do, doesn't mean you should call us names. That's what's wrong with our country right now. And I'm sick of it. We are all adults here. Do you allow guns in your office, in your business?
Certainly do. Open carry and conceal.
Do you, Dr. Connect? Like Dr. Crumpton said, there's a lot of places that don't want it in their place of business, and that's their right. And for our employees to voice their opinion during a survey, that's their right. And you shouldn't make fun of them. Again, you're a sitting commissioner. No, and to your point, some of us worship God instead of guns. And I read the Bible, and I believe Daniel and Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego. Some people put their faith in God, that God's going to see them through. God's going to protect them. And don't make fun of us if that's the way our faith is, Kevin.
Madam Chair, I'm not making fun of you.
Well, but I mean, you said, think about what you just said.
What specifically?
Well, I mean, about how people that didn't agree with you.
Didn't agree with me. You mean on the
About
sign
the,
thing?
yes.
Well, once again, somebody's got to be a voice for all the people that feel like they should have the right to be able to defend themselves. Because would you agree, though, Madam Chair, that that sign's not going to keep anybody from carrying a gun in here except for law-abiding citizens?
No, I don't agree with that because I do know there's
You think that's going to stop a criminal from carrying a gun in here?
Well, let's be
That's
honest.
a yes or no. That's, I mean, really, it's a yes or no. Do you believe that sign is guaranteed to stop a criminal from bringing a gun in here?
No, but we're not talking about just
Well, I
a
mean, I asked
sign.
you just to answer the
Like
question, you wouldn't
like
answer
said,
it.
a sign is not going to make a difference one way or the other.
It's not.
But there are some people, you wouldn't let me say what I was going to say because it's more than a yes or no answer. There's some people, and I know for a fact that some of our folks in our offices deal with, that they respect a sign, they respect the law.
I wish all
And
of
if
them
they-
did.
Well, but if there's that one person, because if you think about it, Kevin, all these mass shootings with these people, they're not criminals. Most of them have never done anything bad in their life. But something causes them to get a gun and come and do something terrible.
That was the day they became a criminal.
I know that, but up until that point, they obeyed the law.
We don't know that. Remember, lots of people break the law, but they don't get
Well,
caught.
that's true. I think most of us have probably broken the law if you're on the
True.
highway.
True.
You know, yeah. But I mean, look, you have a right to put before the board what you want to put before the board, and we take a vote. But to make fun of, to
It wasn't me.
discount.
I'm sorry. Let's be clear. I was making a point that over 4,000 concealed carry holders exist in Lee County. And you have a small number of employees who have a tendency to be extremely, the good word to use is sensitive to the fact that they may have an issue with someone with a firearm. That minority does not rule that majority.
But when we took the survey, it wasn't a small amount of our employees. It was 80%.
And what is the total number of employees we have?
No,
300?
you're talking, no, but what you said didn't make sense. You said it was a small number of employees. No, it was 80% of our employees.
Compared to the 4,000, I'm talking about the 4,000 concealed carry holders within within Lee County.
Okay.
And I'm not adding those folks that come in from out of the county. To have that
But don't you,
small number of employees dictate to those folks,
no, I see what you're saying, but you still called the employees' names and told them to put their big pants on. That's making fun.
Okay.
If that happened to your grandchildren in school, you would say they were being bullied and made fun of. You would, and you know you would. So I'm off my soapbox.
You're a very strong woman.
Well, I pray for strength every day. Okay, is there a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. I move that we go into closed session per North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A4 to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of business.
Okay, any discussion or anything? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.